Next, we have the pleasure of hearing from Intercity Advisors, which is SV2's newest grantee. ICA was selected in last year's Entrepreneurship grant round, and they are a nonprofit which invests in high-potential businesses and entrepreneurs through business advising, education and engagement, and providing access to capital. And it is my great pleasure to welcome Allison Kelly, CEO of ICA, and Diana Tremblay, who is the Director of Acceleration at ICA.
Wow, that was so inspiring. Thank you, Josh. Hello, my name is Allison Kelly. I'm the CEO of ICA. ICA is a 24-year-old organization that's been operating in Oakland. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. My journey to ICA, I'm a newbie here. I've only been with the organization for 3 months. Goodness, time is flying.
Feels like 6 months.
Just feels like 6 months some days. But my background is, after college, I went into the Peace Corps. I lived in West Africa. And I went in thinking I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. And I came out wanting to use business as a force for social change. So that's been really the thread that I followed in my career, and that led me to this incredible organization. Diana, how did you end up at ICA?
Yeah, I have been at ICA for 5 years. I started as an intern, and my joke is I just never left. So they can't get rid of me. But I grew up in Oakland, and I see the power of small business. And when I really learned a lot more about ICA, I was like, I have to be there and I have to stay there.
And the funny story about me and Diana is I actually tried to hire her about 10 years ago to a previous organization, and she went to ICA instead. So
It's our funny.
I had to come here in order to work with her.
So, Allison, you mentioned that you're going to be here, and really, what really brought you to ICA?
Yeah, so the mission of ICA is to invest in high potential businesses that are creating economic freedom for those who need it most. And this is a mission that we have pursued out of our founding 23 years ago, which was really founded on this idea that Michael Porter made famous as an economist coming out of Harvard, that really the best way to overcome inner city blight was to invest in small businesses and the jobs that they create in their communities. And we have pursued that mission steadfastly for the last 23 years, and we've had different chapters within our organization. So originally focusing on the social capital networks that we were talking about earlier, and the education and the advising network that we had. And then we focused a chapter on good jobs. What is a good job? How do you measure a good job? Why is it important to a community? And these days, looking at the data in our world, looking at the racial and gender wealth gap is a great opportunity for ICA to motivate and activate its resources to make change in our local communities.
Thanks. And I think really thinking about what ICA has been able to achieve for these entrepreneurs in the 23 years, can you talk a little bit about the impact?
Yes. And this is where I need my notes because I've only been here for 3 months. But, the organization in its history has worked with over 600 small businesses in our communities. We serve the 9-county Bay Area region. We've helped those companies raise over $300 million of capital, growth capital. We've supported these companies as they've created over 5,500 jobs. We have directly, over our experience, after having identified a gap in access to capital, we then raised capital and have deployed over $2.5 million worth of capital. And that capital deployed is now worth twice its value. So that's our impact today.
Right, and speaking of impact and longevity of organizations, can you talk a little bit about the companies we see here behind us and how they have interacted with ICA?
Yeah, so we chose some companies that you all may have heard of, Blue Bottle, Revolution Foods, Numi Tea. These are companies that ICA engaged with 20 years ago, 15 years ago, before anybody knew who they were. Blue Bottle, we learned earlier today. I learned earlier today. We engaged with them when they were a year-old company operating out of a garage. How Silicon Valley of them. And what we have learned, which I appreciate what you said, Rick, about the time it takes of these investments to pay off. I mean, one thing that we know about small businesses is that most small businesses fail. And so we are investing in these businesses, particularly focused on businesses run by people of color and women, to ensure that they not only survive, but that they grow and thrive. So that's a little bit about ICA's history. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the accelerator. Can you tell me something about that, Diana?
So happy to share. I could talk about the accelerator all day, but I won't do that. So we have a business accelerator. It's about 4 months, and really the purpose of the accelerator is to get high potential companies access to capital. And when we think about capital, we think about financial capital, but we also think about social capital, which, as Linda mentioned, it's something that not all companies have access to, and we use our networks and we let people borrow our social capital, like we borrow our partner social capital too in our work that we're doing down here now in San Jose. And really we want to be making sure the companies can grow as fast as they can, sustainably, create good jobs, build wealth building opportunities, and really thrive in their communities.
And so how has that resulted? What are some of the results of this?
Yeah, so we launched our accelerator in this iteration in 2016, and in that time, that first cohort has raised $18 million. That's across 10 companies. These are high growth companies that are dedicated to good job creation and wealth building. The companies have also increased their revenue 130% from when we started working with them. And they've also grown jobs 78%. And Reen, who you see back here, she's one of our entrepreneurs who was she's right in front, one of our entrepreneurs who was in our accelerator, and she came in at a lower revenue, but you know what she did? She grew her revenue 300%, and she raised over $500,000. She went from a farmer's market stall to a brick and mortar bakery, and is really thinking about how does she create a restaurant group. So that's the kind of work we do with companies to really help them realize their value in their business and their own potential.
Yeah, that's what's really astounding to me, is hearing these stories and realizing that these entrepreneurs are really stepping in and seeing themselves as leaders for the first time. Can you tell us about some of the entrepreneurs that have come through the program?
Yeah. So our entrepreneurs, as you can see, are very diverse. 50% women, 60% people of color, and we're really working with companies and entrepreneurs, as Allison mentioned, focusing on entrepreneurs of color and women. To really make sure they get the access to capital of all the sorts I just mentioned and can grow their businesses. And we're really working with companies that are beyond startup phase, but they're still early stage. They're really trying to figure out, how do I go from organic growth to strategic growth? How do I get that capital that I need? And that's how we pick companies that way too. Do you have our social values in mind, but how are you really going to grow your company?
That's great. So what does that programming really look like?
So there's lots of things, but there's pictures. It's nice. But at the end of the day, we're helping companies get investment ready. And for us, investment ready means that someone can see the value in your business. Either it's a capital provider, it's a strategic partner who wants to acquire you or work with you to help you grow, or the business can thrive without you. And we're really able to see companies really understand the value of their business and articulate that really well. And at the end of the day, our job is to help them raise capital, and so that's what we really strive to do. And then they get to go ask people for money through a pitch event, which is kind of fun for them, maybe. But it's scary asking people for money, so we try to equip them the best way that we can.
That's right. That's great. Thank you so much. You know, it's one of the things about ICA's investing activity that I find it particularly important, is that if we look at the gender and the racial wealth gap, one of the things that we know about people of color and women that keeps them from being able to access capital as they grow their small business is lack of assets. So we use our capital as an asset on the balance sheet of these small businesses so that they can go out and get an SBA loan or a bank loan or a loan from one of our CDFI partners. And speaking of partners, the work that we do is really hard. I love this concept of farther together. This idea of an integrated ecosystem of support is really what we need. And we have partners in the room here tonight supporting us, and we really thank you for being here. Centra and Working Solutions, not to name any names. But it's organizations like SV2 also and Sobrato Foundation who have invested in ICA so that we can expand our work in San Jose in particular. So we've spent the last 18 months in San Jose, led by our colleague Ingrid Jacobson, who is developing relationships and doing a needs assessment, listening to the community. What do you have and what do you need? How can we complement and adapt our model to the needs in San Jose? And one of the things that we've learned and sort of been reminded again is that this is a long journey. It's not in 18 months we're going to support 10 companies and they're going to grow their revenues by 500%. It's like, you know what? In the last 18 months, we've planted a lot of seeds. We're going to nurture these seeds, and we're going to watch them grow in the community over time. And we're going to be by their side while we do it. So that is all that we shared. And what we wanted to do was keep it high level enough to see if there were any engaging questions. I know it's getting late, but if you have any other questions that you want to ask us while we're here, please feel free. No? We weren't, it's not, don't be shy, but I know it's like sort of off the script to ask questions, but, hey, we learn. We want others to learn. Yeah.
Allowed to. So, thank you for being here. It was a very interesting talk, and it was very natural. Like the transition is very nice. So, my question is, how do you select what organizations to partner with and to fund?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I can talk about partnerships, and maybe you can talk about funding. Great. So I think because we know this, as Allison mentioned, this work is really hard to do by ourselves. And the stage of companies we work at is very particular. So it's early stage, they're going to get their seed round. So it's before they go out and get really big money, but it's after friends and family. So that's a very particular kind of stage of entrepreneurship. And we work with partners like Centro and Working Solutions who work with slightly earlier stage companies. So we're looking for partners who can help the entrepreneur along the continuum that could refer to us and that we could potentially refer back out. So there's a cycle of support. And we're also looking for partners who will help us get advisors. We work with pro bono advisors, so anytime there's an opportunity that we can be in the room with really smart people who can help our companies, we love that too. So that's how we pick some of our partners.
Perfect tee up for a little slight ask here that if any of you know or are interested in being advisors in our network in San Jose, we'd love to welcome you into our network. On the investing side, we're still developing our investment thesis for our next fund, but we're focused on entrepreneurs who have a growth mindset and a business model to support that growth mindset, and that their growth is dependent on the creation of jobs, and that they have a shared interest in the growth of that company. So what that means for us is looking at not only paying above minimum wage and providing benefits, but also thinking longer term about opportunities to share wealth that's created within the business, whether that's an ESOP or other non-traditional employee ownership sharing opportunities. Again, a job, like we talk a lot about affordable housing, especially in the Bay Area, and it is so important, and we're glad that conversation is going. And no house is affordable. No housing is affordable if you don't have a job. But a job is not a wealth-creating opportunity in most cases. A job is a way to get by, and wealth-creating opportunities, if we can help companies put that in their DNA and how they grow, that's the kind of change we want to see. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. So there'll be an opportunity to ask questions directly to these guys in the next little while as we share more stories over dessert and coffee. So thank you all for coming tonight, being here, and please stay and continue to mingle. Thank you.